to the high teens. Thursday brings another relatively mild day, a little bit more in the way of sunshine, but further showers, particularly across more northern areas. Across the south, there's just a small risk of the odd shower here and there. Stays unsettled through Friday as well. Another windy day to come for some areas, but the weekend does look like it will turn a bit drier. Bye-bye.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Time is ticking on your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From cold mornings
To warm family brunches.
from football to tennis in the car,
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
Lots of people discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
Axel Rudikabane's teacher tried to raise the alarm but was silenced because he was black. And it's an exclusive for you. I will show you yet another way that illegal immigrants are conning the Home Office. Plus,
today, we're launching our campaign for Yes Sex Please, We're British. We want to get the whole of Britain talking about sex.
it's not like we've got anything else on, is it? I mean, this Labour MP wants to bring sex toys into Parliament as part of a Summer of Sex campaign. And
Welcome to Australia.
Harry and Meghan humiliate themselves down under and make the taxpayer pay for it. Also, revealed that Labour wants to cut, yes, cut, £3.5 billion from the defence budget to prioritise welfare spending. And
Great British Energy is your publicly owned energy company, and here's its first project, putting solar panels on the roofs of schools and hospitals in your community.
we are living in Ed Miliband's nightmare. Too many solar panels will fry the grid if we have a heat wave. Who could have seen that coming? On my panel tonight, we've got GB News contributor Will Kingston, journalist Linda Jubilee, and GB News contributor Kai Wilshaw. Also, are you scared of creepy crawlies? Yeah, well, spider bites are sending a record number of people to hospital. Apparently, we're seeing a big increase in false widows. Get ready, Britain, here we go. It's a GB News exclusive. I'll reveal a new way that illegals are conning the hopeless Home Office. Next.
Good evening. The top stories. Former NATO Chief Lord Robertson has accused Sir Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves of corrosive complacency on defence. He also criticised Treasury officials over funding as questions continue over when the full defence investment plan will be published.
We are underprepared, we're underinsured, we're under attack, we're not safe. And the current conflict in the Middle East has to be a rude wake-up call to this country. On top of what we've already seen in Ukraine, it should remind us in the United Kingdom of our vulnerabilities. And there are many. The Defence Secretary's announcement last week about the activities of Russian submarines around our undersea cables highlights just one of the serious risks.
11 asylum hotels have closed down already, with more set to shut in just weeks as Labour scales up the use of large sites to house migrants. The Home Office has announced 11 hotels, which were previously housing asylum seekers, have been handed back to local communities, as many of the asylum seekers are sent to locations like the Crowborough military barracks instead. The site now houses 350 illegal migrants, marking a significant rise in the number of asylum seekers currently being housed there, as the figure previously stood at 27. This is the latest development of the government's initiative to close all asylum hotels during this Parliament and feeds into the broader ambition to tackle illegal immigration in Britain. Home Office Minister Alex Norris spoke to GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White.
I've spoken to the representatives of the Crowborough community and had some very challenging conversations with them about that, to make sure that they have that, our facilities have the lightest possible impact on their lives. We've put more investment into security, into policing, into health services, so that local services are less affected. That type of accommodation, what we call dispersed accommodation, has always been used for, in this case, asylum accommodation. Lots and lots, huge amounts, and change communities, of course, exactly the way you'd say. That is wrong, but that is part of finding the solution, and what we would say of dispersing, the challenge of supporting a population of people who would otherwise be destitute.
Donald Trump says Iran talks could resume over the next 2 days after the first round in Pakistan last weekend ended without a deal. Meanwhile, world leaders will gather in Paris this week to agree a plan to keep the Strait of Hormuz open to shipping after the conflict in the Middle East. Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron will co-host the summit, focusing on a coordinated multinational mission to protect one of the world's most important trade routes. Downing Street says the plan will combine military and diplomatic efforts to safeguard shipping once the war ends. It comes as the UK steps up its response to the crisis with a new cabinet committee set up to deal with the wider impact on energy, markets and national security. And the preliminary round of talks between Israel and Lebanon has now concluded in Washington. The Lebanese state news agency is reporting Israel's ambassador to the US, Yikael Leiter, and his Lebanese counterpart were hosted at the talks by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said the meeting represented an historic opportunity. But he warned that diplomats are working against decades of history and complexities. The negotiations lasted around 2.5 hours. Israel and terror group Hezbollah, that are based in Lebanon, have continued to launch strikes at each other during the 2-week ceasefire agreed by the US and Iran. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more in an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening. Just before we get stuck into the show as planned, I want to give you the latest developments on this. The government has closed 11 more asylum hotels as more migrants move to military barracks. And we can reveal exactly where in the country these are now. 15 Citrus Hotel in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, Banbury House Hotel in Banbury, Oxfordshire, the Britannia Hotel in Wolverhampton, the Crewe Arms Hotel in Crewe, Cheshire East, and the Holiday Inn Heathrow, which is near Hillingdon, Madeley Court Hotel in Telford and Wrekin, the Marine Court Hotel in Bangor, the Oyo Lakeside, St Helens Merseyside, Shore Hotel by Best Western in Aberdeen, the Rock Hotel in Halifax, and the Wool Merchant Hotel also in Halifax. So I just wanted to bring that to you because no doubt that will be affecting a lot of the areas where we have viewers and listeners. Of course, the big question on everybody's lips is where on earth are they going to put them all? Well, we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? But let's crack on with the show as planned. Tonight, I can reveal in a GB News exclusive another way that illegal immigrants are tricking the Home Office and conning their way into Britain. We have infiltrated a people smuggler WhatsApp group, as regular viewers and listeners will know, and we've already shown you that they appear to be advertising guns in there, submachine guns, AK-47s, pistols. We've already shown you that some of them have the profile picture of Iran's now dead Ayatollah, so it shows which side they're on. We've shown how some of them are pretending to be members of an obscure tribe of Badoon people from Kuwait, making it more likely for them to be granted asylum. Something also revealed by the Daily Telegraph yesterday. And they have an audio recording of someone fooling the hapless Home Office and then posting it online so that other illegals can use the same trick.
Okay, do you consider yourselves to have a political profile in Kuwait or the UK?
No, that's incorrect. I had political activity.
Do you remember when this happened, the day this happened?
13th of July 2019.
Yeah, it's as easy as that. You just flagrantly lie about where you're from and your political activity. Well, in the last few days, we have come into possession here at GB News of messages telling Iraqi illegal migrants how to break into Britain and be granted asylum by falsely claiming to be Roma gypsies. They urge migrants to trick the authorities and say, tell a story of discrimination against you and that you do not have certificates or official documents, which obviously gets you around the idea that you might need certificates or official documents in order to get into Britain. They've been issued by smugglers in WhatsApp chats. These messages that are on your screen right now, it's a how-to guide, and they make clear that what you should be doing is using these do-gooder charities like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch and how they can help. So, to be fair, these charities they're not actually knowingly involved in this particular scam, but it urges them to use links to articles by these human rights charities about the persecution of the Roma people in Iraq. And it tells the migrants that there is no need for any supporting documents. In fact, not having any documents is a good thing for their case, for the Home Office, because obviously the Roma people are so persecuted and uneducated that they don't have any official documents. So if you don't have a passport or anything like that, it actually proves that you're telling the truth. Remarkable, isn't it? It tells them to mention cases of forced marriage, child labour and displacement from some areas due to the Roma stigma in parts of Iraq. And of course, like I said, that is documented by various different human rights organisations. Some of them have not gone to school or they might have dropped out. Again, this is also considered to be genuinely supporting evidence as far as the Home Office is concerned. Tell them that you face bullying, insults and belittlement because of your Roma origin. And it also tells you this, and this is really the kind of meaty bit of this how-to guide on breaking into Britain. Number one, memorise the locations where the Roma live in various different provinces and villages. Number two, memorise Roma names. Just choose 3, 4 or 5 part Roma names and then adopt it. So just make up your own name. Number three, tell a story of discrimination against you and that you do not have certificates or official documents. Number four, if you feel motivated enough, and this is hilarious, if you feel motivated enough, go to a Roma neighbourhood in Iraq, film some of the videos of the area there, show their way of life, and then speak about it in the video whilst pretending to be one of them. I mean, it's remarkable, isn't it? It also says that they need to write a statement about their fear of being returned. So you can't return me to that place I've never been, apart from when I went to do a viral video for you. A personal statement explaining why you feel afraid to return to Iraq. Clarify how society rejects you and that you have no legal or social protection. If all of this sounds too easy to be true, just consider the fact that a Home Office whistleblower claimed that workers at the Home Office approving the asylum applications of Afghan asylum seekers accused of sexual offences because they were told that they couldn't reject them. Yeah, that's right. So Home Office staff were saying that they had to approve the applications of asylum seeker sex offenders from Afghanistan because they weren't allowed to reject them. And there you go. This is just another way that these illegals are conning the Home Office. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. GB News contributor Will Kingston, journalist Linda Jubilee and GB News contributor Kai Wilshaw. So, Will, there you go. This is all being posted, by the way, like I said, in these WhatsApp groups of just a how-to guide on to how to trick the Home Office.
Yeah, well, Patrick, there's a couple of things that infuriate me about this story. On the charities, they should lose their tax-exempt status and be publicly shamed because what they're doing is cynical and deceptive. Most people who give to these charities, including many pensioners, would assume that they still just feed starving Ethiopian kids, as opposed to get involved in these sorts of leftist boondoggles, which now seems to be their main objective. On the Home Office, you said that they're being conned. My suspicion is that maybe while some in the Home Office are, many of them know that this goes on and they run with it because now they feel that their objective isn't actually to help with regard to asylum, it's to help people who have a bad life around the world, even if it doesn't meet that asylum threshold. They would think that, well, the UK is colonial and we made these people's lives incredibly difficult 150 years ago, and so we have some sort of moral obligation now to let them in. And even if they don't technically meet the levels of asylum, we're still doing a good thing. And it goes to show that the Home Office, the NGOs, the leftist establishment now think about immigration less as putting something in the best interest of the British people and more about some warped ideology.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the Home Office and the National Crime Agency have been aware of this WhatsApp group for like months now because we've told them about it, and it's still just running and running and running. And so, you know, I would have thought that at the very least now we've exposed the fact that people are pretending to be from a Bedouin tribe in Kuwait, which I think would raise some serious red flags about anyone who has ever claimed that. Frankly, maybe they should have their asylum claims revisited. And now, of course, the Roma people of Iraq. I mean, do we think that anything's going to be done about this, Linda?
No, because I think that what we see these days across the board is there is a lack of accountability. There is a culture now in this country where people of all sorts of agencies simply aren't accountable for what they do. Yep. There's a lack of accountability here. Nothing will happen about this because I think what we're looking at, it's not really a kind of so much a moral obligation that they feel they've got to turn things down. As a box-ticking culture that exists, and they just push people through. I mean, I've worked inside some asylum hotels, and I can tell you now that where the evacuees were concerned, there was a hard deadline of August the 29th, I think it was, 2023. I was amazed because all those people went out into private accommodation. There wasn't enough social housing to house them, so they all went into private accommodation. This is the Afghans. So it's one example of the hard deadline that was kept to, and they were all pushed into the private housing sector one way or the other. And I know it happened because I was in the room when it happened. Now, I regard that as just pushing the deck chairs round on the Titanic, as is this, putting people, moving them out of hotels. But as to the point here, and I think that Will has raised a really important point, that there are many good-meaning, well-meaning elderly people in this country, and it is often elderly people who give quite a large slab of money to charities, feeling that the charity is actually going to be helping some of these groups of people, and it's not. That money is not being handled properly, and I think there's a big problem in the charity sector in this country because of it.
I mean, it's interesting, Kai, there, that what they actually say is that it works in your favour in this case if you don't have any supporting documentation. It's the perfect grift, isn't it, this? I come from such a persecuted and uneducated minority in Iraq that I, on account of being so persecuted and uneducated, couldn't possibly have any proof.
Yeah, of course. But none of this is news to us, Patrick. I'm sorry. These are international crime gangs. As you highlighted yourself, they're polycrime outfits, right? So they're doing arms smuggling, they're doing drug smuggling, human trafficking, which is what this is. It's no surprise that they're trying to game the system, right? But can I just call out this blatant conspiracy from Will that this is to do with some leftist culture, the Home Office just waving people in? If that was the case, that this Q8 example, right, why then have asylum acceptances dropped from about 80% from this group of people to about 40% in the Home Office? That doesn't strike me like the actions of a department that is just sort of waving people through. It sounds like an actions department that is trying at least to get a grip of the situation. Now, the Home Office is famously useless, OK? Shabana Mahmood has said as much. She said in October 2025 that it's not fit for purpose, right? So they know that. Clearly, there's a whole way to go to improve things. But to say that they don't even want to try is absurd, because we're starting to see the results, aren't we? Asylum hotels shutting down, the number of small boats crossings going down.
I just said, it doesn't matter if the asylum hotel closes down, if the asylum seekers are going somewhere else. It doesn't matter, does it? Yeah. Closing a hotel down is irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, does it? If people are going to more basic accommodation in sort of larger, much more basic army barracks or that kind of thing, hundreds of people going to those instead of... And also, well, number one, the saving. I mean, these shutting down means that we save £65 million a year.
But some of those contracts,
is that a good thing?
Those contracts have already been signed.
That's a bad thing?
No, the contracts have already been signed. When you close the asylum-seeking hotel down, the management that runs that asylum hotel, they've got a contract that runs till X time. They don't just hand the money back.
Well, why would the Home Office say that it's saving that much money? Are they lying?
I've got no idea.
They're not lying.
They lied to us before. They said a cast iron thing that the Britannia Hotel in London was not going to be used as a migrant hotel, and then 24 hours later they bust them in at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But go on.
Yeah, Patrick, write a reply for my misguided Saturday 5 colleague. An answer by saying, well, we all know that the Home Office has been doing this for a long time. Well, to your point, Patrick, as you whispered to me just then, why have they done nothing to stop it? You provided one example about Iraqi migrants.
It doesn't make
and I'll
it
look
right.
into that. But the fact of the matter is the vast majority of asylum cases, including the ones that are fraudulent, end up being accepted by the Home Office. And the numbers overall haven't been going down, even if they've gone down in that one particular instance. But I go back to the fundamental point. If you believe that we all know that the Home Office are useless, Why aren't we doing anything about it? Why isn't this
There we
government...
Exactly.
As I was saying, Shabana Mahmood herself has said it's not fit for purpose, it can't deal with crises. She is getting a grip to it, right?
But it doesn't matter what she says.
Does it
it's
not?
what she does.
She's good at
yes, it's what she does.
OK, so legislating again and again to remove the incentives for migrants. Well, nothing has happened. Really, do you read the news? You know all the things that have happened.
Of course, look, I've worked
She's
in
come
this
back
hotel,
again.
so I know perfectly well what goes on.
She's got come back.
Nothing has happened so far.
Nothing.
Nothing. Clearly, nothing has happened because everybody is still concerned.
A record number of people in taxpayer-funded asylum accommodation, hotels or not, is now above 110,000. Just think on the Home Office as well that the whistleblower said that there was an Afghan sex offender who'd repeatedly exposed himself outside a children's playground, and they were told that they had to approve his asylum claim because you can't turn down anyone from Afghanistan. So
we hear a story like that every single day.
It is a problem. But we've obviously been to the Home Office and they said that our message is clear. The asylum system is not open to abuse. A range of tools are used by caseworkers to establish the credibility of asylum cases, including examining nationality and identity. We are reforming our asylum system to restore order and control to Britain's borders by removing the incentives which draw illegal migrants to the UK and increase removals of those who know how to be here. We also went to a spokesperson from Amnesty International who said Amnesty International's researches and publishes reports on human rights violations worldwide. Draw attention to them. Our reports are publicly available and we do not provide advice or representation to individuals making asylum claims. And a Human Rights Watch spokesperson, which is another group you mentioned, said since 1978 Human Rights Watch has been monitoring and reporting on human rights abuses around the world. Our reports are... It's the same ROR. It's the same... That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, it also an ROR that doesn't address the story.
Well, anyway, our reports are available online, free to access and widely covered in the media. We have no control over how governments or individuals choose to use our findings. That's remarkable, the similarities there between those two responses. Anyway, time for the Great British Giveaway. And what it is some supporting evidence that you are indeed a Roma gypsy from Iraq. No, it's not. It's not. It's a motorhome.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this stylish home from home comes with all of the features you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Alloy wheels, solar panel and pop-top bunks for an optional sleeping area. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, Harry and Meghan are down under, and Meghan's dropped her royal title, which is interesting because she's got a whole website about it. But what do they hope to achieve from their taxpayer-funded jolly to Australia? But next, why is a Labour MP launching a campaign where she wants to see sex toys brought into Parliament?
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered. Legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable. What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. Should a Labour MP be bringing sex toys into Parliament? It's time now for our head-to-head. The Labour MP Samantha Niblett is planning to make 2026 the summer of sex, pushing for what she says will be a more open and inclusive approach to sex education.
Today, we're launching our campaign for Yes, Sex Please, We're British. We want to get the whole of Britain talking about sex. And we're making the summer of 2026 the summer of sex.
The first step is we want to hear from you.
Yeah, so the MP for Derbyshire North's campaign will call for greater understanding on areas such as consent, preventing abuse and violence, as well as having more candid discussions on sexual health. Some of the more eye-catching details include plans to arrange 2 events in Westminster, one where she intends to bring what can only be described as an arsenal of sex toys into Parliament. So, is this new campaign breaking taboos, or is the government just trying to get into your bedroom? Joining us now is the political commentator Matthew Holbert and former Shadow Home Secretary Anne Widdecombe. And I'll start with you. I mean, I can't help but notice that today the IMF has given a pretty grim forecast about our economic future, including a drop in living standards, drop in GDP per capita, I think, as well as the slowest growth in the G7. But the Labour MP solution to all of that is just bring in the sex toys.
Well, let's be very clear, it's not a government initiative. The government, I hope, will be focusing on the IMF and not on those particular types of toys. What worries me about this, and what I find is really depressing, I'm not outraged, I'm just depressed, is the sheer emphasis on sex. Not on love, not on relationships. I mean, even in 1963, we called it the summer of love. We didn't call it the summer of sex. And therefore, it is concentrating on the animal rather than the emotional and the intellectual. Now, we've never had so much sex education, never, in my lifetime, as we've got today. We've never had so much explicit sex in literature, in the arts, on television. We've never had so much, and yet we've got a more violent society.
OK, Matthew, what do you think about this Summer of Sex campaign, then?
Well, it's good to see you, Patrick, and it's good to see Anne as well. She won't remember this, but about 20 years ago, back in my local radio journalism days, I interviewed her about an event that she was attending at Coventry Cathedral. So it's good to be back with her again all these many years on. And look, I think that this Labour MP has caught our attention. I mean, hasn't she? I mean, we wouldn't be debating it tonight had she have not said what she has said. And we live in an attention deficit world today. And if she'd just put out some dry, boring, old bland press release talking about sex education, we probably wouldn't be talking about it. So she certainly achieved something in that. I worry a little bit about what Anne has said, that we somehow don't mention sex, don't even talk about the fact that it exists, when of course it does. And actually what we need is a healthy relationship with sex. And one of the points of this campaign, I believe, Patrick, is to get a healthier alternative to extreme pornography. And certainly a lot of our boys and young men are watching this stuff, whether we like it or not, whether Anne likes it or not, they are, and are thinking that is how sex happens, and that's what relationships are. And I hope Anne would agree that if we can provide a healthier alternative to that, that's a good thing, no?
Well, I mean, Anne, I'll let you come back to that. Point of back phrase.
Well, first of all, I certainly did not say, and it was a gross distortion of my argument, that we shouldn't even be mentioning sex. I didn't say that at all. What I actually said was, we have never mentioned it so much. We have never had such a focus on it in education. We've never had such a focus on it in television, arts, literature. And yet, with all that openness and education, instead of achieving a more loving, emotionally stable society, we've got a more violent one. And therefore, the answer is not yet more emphasis on it. It really isn't. The answer is to look at the ills in our midst and to tackle them in their own right. The answer to this is really not just endless discussions of sex. And frankly, I can't think of anything more tedious.
Yeah, I mean, look, Matthew, I think one of the things that I have with this is that, quite often they mask a very, very serious issue, violence against women, issues around consent, or rape, obviously, all of that kind of stuff, which is massively, massively, massively important for us to deal with as a society. And then they demean that by doing something like bringing in a load of sex toys to Parliament and saying things like, it's a turn-on, it helps you masturbate, it helps you, and then another word, to orgasm, right? And actually, that's really quite vulgar, isn't it? And there's a lot of people out there at the moment that are really struggling with taxation, with their area changing massively around them, with the housing crisis, with mortgages, with everything. And, with the best will in the world, seeing a Labour MP waving a sex toy around the House of Commons is not going to help their lives, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reaction of most of her constituents will be to raise their eyes in disbelief and to say, what relevance has this government to my life? Now, it isn't government, it's an individual backbench MP. But even so, same question.
Let's get Matthew in. Go on, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, look, is it, the best thing I've ever read from an MP? No, it isn't. But as I say, we live in a world where it's very difficult to get people's attention, where it's very difficult to get media attention. And she certainly achieved that, if nothing else today. Look, I think we should have a healthy relationship towards sex. I mean, one thing that I would just point out is that, so I knew that I was a gay man from about the age of 13, 14. Did sex education have anything to teach me and about, my future experiences as a gay man, if I can put it that way? No, it didn't at all. And so how was that useful sex education for me? It quite simply wasn't. And we used to pretend, under Section 28, brought in, of course, by Anne's lot, we shouldn't forget that, any relationship by a heterosexual one couldn't even be mentioned in the classroom. That is a nonsense, and I hope that even Anne now would accept that that is a nonsense.
I do not accept. I'm sorry, I don't accept that. Stop trying to speak for me. Don't speak for me. I speak for myself. I do not regard it as a nonsense to try and promote marriage and relationships between men and women as the norm. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I would not exclude, and I have never excluded, explanations around other forms of relationships. I've never excluded that, but I do believe very, very strongly there's nothing wrong in promoting marriage.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, we are out of time now. I know that Matthew probably had a few things to say about that, but look, thank you very much, both of you. Anyway, it's always a pleasure. It's political commentator Matthew Holbert, that, and former Shadow Home Secretary Anne Widdecombe. Coming up, well, news that Britain's solar power capacity threatens to overwhelm our electricity grid this summer. I'm going to be asking, is this the end for Ed Miliband's net zero fever dream? But next.
Welcome to Australia.
Ah, well, there we go. Meghan and Harry seem to be enjoying their jolly in Australia. I wonder if the Aussie taxpayers who are footing the bill will be as ecstatic as they are. Why are they there? What's going on? All that's next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunny skies across most of Spain, some thundery showers on Wednesday in Italy, and after some sunshine, things turning showery in Greece. Things warming up in the Canaries through the rest of this week. Sunny spells on Wednesday, lots of sunshine for Spain and Portugal. Main exception will be the far northwest, where there will be some rain moving in. Heavy showers, even thunderstorms likely in Italy, particularly in Rome. Much of Greece dry and sunny on Wednesday, but the showers will move in here later on in the week, and a continued risk of thunderstorms in Rome.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through the next day or so, it will remain pretty cloudy but relatively mild, especially in any sunshine. It's going to be a very mild night tonight, particularly compared to nights we've had so far this week. That's because we've got southwesterly winds pulling up this milder air, but also a series of weather fronts. So that means outbreaks of rain will continue overnight tonight for much of the country. It's relatively light rain for most areas, but it could turn heavy across parts of Northern Ireland as well as Western Scotland in particular. The winds will start to pick up across western areas as well. But it is going to be a mild start to the day on Wednesday. Temperatures just 10 or 11 degrees to start the day. So very mild for the time of year, and as I said, very mild compared to recent mornings. We had a frost in these areas this morning. Now, 10 or 11 degrees to start the day, plenty of cloud, outbreaks of rain pushing up from the south and west. Still, the rain will be relatively light through the morning, but there is a spell of heavier rain on the way. Now, there will be some cloud and some sunnier spells at times across the far south and east, but I think for most of us, it's going to be a pretty cloudy day on Wednesday. Now, this band of rain pushes eastwards throughout the day. This brings a risk of some heavy spells of rain, some gusty winds for a time, so do take care if you're heading out around lunchtime. Shouldn't last all that long, but it does bring some nasty weather. Some brighter spells developing behind that, a risk of showers though across the south and west. But in any sunshine across the east, temperatures could climb to the high teens. Thursday brings another relatively mild day, a little bit more in the way of sunshine, but further showers, particularly across more northern areas. Across the south, there's just a small risk of the odd shower here and there. Stays unsettled through Friday as well, another windy day to come for some areas, but the weekend does look like it will turn a bit drier. Bye-bye.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christys tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK. GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back. We are thrilled to announce that GB News Breakfast has once again been nominated for the Best Programme at the Trick Awards. Breakfast has won this award for the last 3 years, and the team couldn't have done it without you, our loyal audience. But we, of course, need you to vote for Breakfast again if you think that we should win this year. So you can vote now by scanning that QR code that's on your screen, or by going to poll-trick, which is spelled TRIC.org.uk. Thank you very, very much. Now, Meghan Markle has kicked off her Australia tour with a casual touch, telling well-wishers, hey, just call me Meg. Call me Meg. She and Prince Harry were warmly welcomed in Melbourne, where they visited a children's hospital and met veterans, keeping engagements relaxed and personal. The visit sets the tone for a low-key, people-focused 4-day tour. Yeah, very low-key, isn't it? It comes after more than 45,000 Australians signed a petition demanding no taxpayer funding would go towards the visit. But, of course, taxpayer funding is going towards the visit. I'm joined now by royal and entertainment journalist Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, thank you very much. What is the point of them being in Australia?
Self-promotion. Making money. That's what they're there to do. They're there to raise funds, to make cash, to promote themselves. Really, for Meghan to promote herself as a brand. I don't know if you knew, she's actually now dropped her title, Duchess. She just wants to be known as Meghan. Like we have Madonna, like we have Cher,
yes, yes.
like we have Britney. Now we have Meghan. So forget about the Markle, forget about the Duchess title. She's just now going by her single name now. But this is a cashing in exercise that the two of them are doing. They are there purely, they're raising money by selling tickets to see them, to have meet and greets with people. Meghan's hosting this women's only VIP event later on this week, where tickets have been selling for, I think it's £1,600, and for that you get a photograph with Meghan, a meet and greet. You get to hear a conversation with her on stage, which means she's just going to be waffling a load of word salad for about 20 minutes, and then you get a photograph afterwards, and that's what you pay your £1,600 for. I mean, whoever's doing that must be off their rockers. But there you go. Maybe they put something in the water down in Australia. No offence to any Australians watching. I do love the Aussies. But look, not all of the Australians are in favour of this self-publicity drive that the two of them are on. The last time they came in 2018, Patrick, Meghan had reportedly hated when she was in Australia. It didn't go down very well. That was when she was a fully working member of the royal family, and yeah, it was a bit of a disaster. So it's taken 8 years for her to be able to get back. Harry's always loved Australia. He's always had a warm relationship with the Australians. But Meghan, not so much. So it's interesting. But I think what's happened is she's burnt so many bridges. Look, they're not getting any work in America, really. That's dried up. Canada, there's not the money there to pay for them. They don't care. Britain, finished, forget it, not bothered. So where have they got left to go? They can't do South Africa, because that was a disaster. Yeah. You know, when Meghan was crying, am I OK? No one's asked me if I'm OK. You know, so now it's Australia. But it does make it stick in your craw. Apparently she went to a women's aid shelter today in Melbourne wearing thousands of pounds of designer clothing. It's like, come on, Meghan, read the blinking room, can't you? Yeah. You know, you're going there, poor women, victims of domestic violence, got nothing, and then Meghan swans in, hello, you know, and I'm surprised she didn't give them bananas. You remember when she wrote on the bananas to the prostitutes, you will be OK, or whatever rubbish, those rubbish slogans years ago. I'm surprised she didn't give those out again.
I mean, they've even lost some of the more left-wing newspapers. I mean, The Independent has gone for Meghan's business trip to Australia shows the tragedy of Prince Harry.
Yeah, well, he's a tag-along, isn't he?
So it's £1,650 it sets you back for a VIP package, which includes, as you said, a group selfie opportunity with the Duchess. And get this, So apparently Harry is billed as a guest speaker at something called the Inter-Edge Summit in Melbourne. Now, this is like something straight out of one of those ridiculous LinkedIn posts. This is, quote...
It's David Brent, The Office, isn't it?
A vital space where individual well-being and organisational responsibility meet.
Oh, God. I feel like Meghan's written that. It's just more guff. It's just absolute nonsense. And as you say, it's like one of those awful blue sky LinkedIn thinking events where actually Harry, I don't even think, knows what he's saying. He's just reading out, shall I say, something that Meghan will have written for him. And it's just endless sound bites, pontificating on. And you just think, Harry, how far have you fallen? You're the younger brother of the future king, and yet here you are having to tout yourself around like some sort of business guru, when really, what business has Harry ever run? None.
but it's also the fact, what I don't get is why the Australian government has allowed Aussie taxpayers
for the police presence, yes, and that's what's upset. That was why 45,000 Australians signed that petition saying no, because even though they're meant to be self-funded, and the Sussexes have said no, it's not a royal tour, it's just us doing a mental health summit.
They're making money out of it.
But they're making money out of it. But yet the Australian police, the Australian taxpayers, are having to pay for police presence. It's a disgrace. I really feel for the Australians. But this is what Meghan and Harry do. They're very good at blindsiding people. But then people do cotton on to it, and they start to see through them. So it won't be like that. The Australians are known for their straight talking. They shoot, don't they, straight away from the hip. So they're gonna pretty much call this out. And I don't think the reception has been overly warm to them. I mean, when they got to the hospital today, there wasn't many people. There wasn't the crowds of what, say, there was when it was 2018, straight after the wedding, when they were at the height of their popularity. It was nowhere near that. That must have been disappointing, because Meghan likes to see a reception, but she did get the fuss at the airport. They came through the airport like a presidential tour, basically. It was like there were potentates with all this like ridiculous amounts of security, Australian police, all the rest of it. I thought that was completely over the top. So I think that will really upset the Australians.
Just find it so baffling.
I know.
Just the idea that these two, essentially now just random people, decide...
Yeah, they are random people.
Decide that they're going to go and visit a country. The country rolls the red carpet out. They visit a hospital.
They're not working royals.
For what possible gain? Oh, they're given all this treatment. I just find it absolutely insane. Like, the sense of entitlement about it. Anyway.
Agreed. It's a disgrace, but there you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sarah Louise Robertson there, who's Royal Entertainment and journalist. Royal and Entertainment journalist, easy for me to say that. Right, OK, look, no doubt Meghan and Harry will say they've been doing some vital work. Coming up, I'll be looking at how so-called anti-racism has created a veil of silence over the case of the monster Axel Rudapakana. I mean, absolutely shocking stuff, that. But next...
Great British Energy is your publicly owned energy company, and here's its first project, putting solar panels on the roofs of schools and hospitals in your community.
Well, it's bad news for Ed Miliband, because it looks like all those solar panels are going to blow the grid up. So fantastic. Well done, Ed. All that and more next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jukes & Co. with you.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christys here with GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every week, there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it? The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
To warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Yes, welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. So, energy officials have been warning that Britain's electricity grid could be overwhelmed by a surge in solar power this summer. The National Energy System Operator says that sunny weather and low demand may force it to take unusual steps, including paying households to use excess electricity or even shutting down larger power stations. The challenge comes as renewable energy expands rapidly, raising concerns about grid stability during peak generation periods. And officials insist that supplies remain secure, but say managing the system is becoming more complex. I'm joined now by the Director of Climate Media Coalition, Donica McCarthy. Donica, thank you very much. So this is quite a bad thing, then, that we've got so much solar energy, isn't it?
They've been complaining for years that we haven't got that solar energy and wind power won't power a plug. And now we've got too much of it. This is a good news story. Britain's getting to a stage where we're producing so much wind and so much solar that we have now enough to store for the evening peak periods, which is when we need the largest amount of energy. This is a part of the process of moving to a clean grid. The other thing about this is they have to turn off a power plant. That's good news. At the moment, we are being hammered with inflation gas prices due to the Israeli war crisis. So the less we use our power plants, the better for Britain plc.
OK, all right. I noticed that you were on over the weekend and you kept referring to it as the Israeli war crisis there. It's quite an interesting turn of phrase, really.
Well,
the Americans were as equally involved.
Well,
what is it about the Israelis?
I'm 67 years old. I've been through this 5 times. Every time Israel invades another country, we've got a fossil fuel.
Oh, no, it's just interesting because obviously the Americans were also involved in it, but you don't seem to be focusing on that, and I can't help but wonder why. But
the reason why, very clearly, is that Marco Rubio very clearly stated it was Netanyahu talked Trump into this war. So Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State.
Fine,
that's why I say
the Americans are also involved. But anyway,
thank you for that.
Yes, all right. Anyway, so look, I can't be noticed as well today, and it kind of related this really. So Britain's economic prospects have been downgraded more than any other major economy due to our dependence on energy imports. So combined, really, we've had this push for net zero, and we've now got lower growth in any G7 country, lower raise in living standards, and now, of course, as well, we've now got the potential of lights going off if the sun shines too much. It's not really been a resounding success, on the coast.
I think it's the layers. You said due to imports, we're facing a
well, it's not my words, it's the IMF.
Yeah, but what the word is we're facing increased fossil fuel imports.
Right.
If you look at Spain is one of the G7 that is predicted to suffer least from this fossil fuel fuel crisis. Why? Because they have switched their grid farther over.
They have a blackout in Spain recently.
The blackout, there was a report last week. Yes, they did.
Right.
The report came out last month. It was complex. There was saying that there's lack of coordination between the different types of energy production.
Right.
And one of the key things that happened that day was a fossil fuel plant went down.
Right.
So it wasn't... There is the fact that...
Do you think if we have a blackout at Miliband, we'll have to go?
I think... Why wouldn't hell would he have to go? He's actually doing the patriotic thing. He's trying to get what we need in Britain is an inflation-proof, secure energy system. Fossil fuels is not it. We've had 2 massive fossil fuel crises in the last 5 years. You know how much each of those cost us? £100 billion.
Okay.
That's a massive subsidy to the fossil fuel industry.
All right, Donica, thank you very much. I always appreciate your time. Donica McCarthy there. When we come back, loads on tomorrow's papers and the latest on the Axel Rudy Cabana fiasco as well.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through the next day or so, it will remain pretty cloudy but relatively mild, especially in any sunshine. It's going to be a very mild night tonight, particularly compared to nights we've had so far this week. That's because we've got southwesterly winds pulling up this milder air, but also a series of weather fronts. So that means outbreaks of rain will continue overnight tonight for much of the country. It's relatively light rain for most areas, but it could turn heavy across parts of Northern Ireland as well as Western Scotland in particular. The winds will start to pick up across western areas as well. But it is going to be a mild start to the day on Wednesday. Temperatures just 10 or 11 degrees to start the day. So very mild for the time of year. And as I said, very mild compared to recent mornings. We had a frost in these areas this morning. Now, 10 or 11 degrees to start the day, plenty of cloud, outbreaks of rain pushing up from the south and west. Still, the rain will be relatively light through the morning, but there is a spell of heavier rain on the way. Now, there will be some cloud and some sunnier spells at times across the far south and east, but I think for most of us, it's going to be a pretty cloudy day on Wednesday. Now, this band of rain pushes eastwards throughout the day. This brings a risk of some heavy spells of rain, some gusty winds for a time, so do take care if you're heading out around lunchtime. Shouldn't last all that long, but it does bring some nasty weather. Some brighter spells developing behind that, a risk of showers, though, across the south and west. But in any sunshine across the east, temperatures could climb to the high teens. Thursday brings another relatively mild day, a little bit more in the way of sunshine, but further showers, particularly across more northern areas. Across the south, there's just a small risk of the odd shower here and there. Stays unsettled through Friday as well, another windy day to come for some areas, but the weekend does look like it will turn a bit drier. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
Well, to be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it? The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered. Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christys tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys tonight. Axel Rudikabana's head teacher tried to raise the alarm but was silenced because he was black. And
mine will be a budget for growth, with fairness at its heart, and a budget that supports businesses to create jobs and to innovate.
well, we're going to get stuck into this. How's that growth looking, Chancellor? The IMF has cut Britain's growth forecast, warns of the highest inflation in the G7 and warns that we're facing the smallest increases in living standards in the world.
With the King? No, he's a friend of mine. He's a great gentleman. And he's going to be here very soon, as you know. We're going to have a steak dinner. It's going to be great.
And I've got some breaking news for you now. The key details of the King and Queen's upcoming state visit to the United States have now been revealed. These include stopovers in Washington, D.C., New York and Virginia to mark America's 250th birthday. I'll give you the full itinerary here in just a couple of moments also.
Welcome to Australia.
Well, a very different kind of royal visit there. Harry and Meghan humiliate themselves down under and make the taxpayer pay for it. Also, revealed, Labour wants to cut, yes, cut, £3.5 billion from the defence budget to prioritise welfare spending. And
Great British Energy is your publicly owned energy company, and here's its first project, putting solar panels on the roofs of schools and hospitals in your community.
we are just living in Ed Miliband's nightmare, aren't we? Too many solar panels will fry the grid if we have a heatwave. On my panel tonight, GB News contributor Will Kingston, journalist Linda Jubilee and another GB News contributor, Kai Wilshaw. Now, look away now if you're scared of spiders, like I am, but I have to be here. So, if you're afraid of creepy crawlies, I'm afraid it's bad news for you, because spider bites are currently sending a record number of people to hospital. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. How many people have to die because people are afraid of being called racist? Next.
Thank you. The top stories. Former NATO Chief Lord Robertson has accused the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of corrosive complacency on defence. He also criticised Treasury officials over funding as questions continue over when the full defence investment plan is going to be published.
We are underprepared, we're underinsured, we're under attack, we're not safe. And the current conflict in the Middle East has to be a rude wake-up call to this country On top of what we've already seen in Ukraine, it should remind us in the United Kingdom of our vulnerabilities. And there are many. The Defence Secretary's announcement last week about the activities of Russian submarines around our undersea cables highlights just one of the serious risks.
11 asylum hotels have closed down already, with more set to shut in just weeks as Labour scales up the use of large sites to house migrants. The Home Office has announced 11 hotels which were previously housing asylum seekers have been handed back to local communities, as many of the asylum seekers are sent to locations like the Crowborough military barracks instead. The site now houses 350 illegal migrants, marking a significant rise in the number of asylum seekers currently being housed there, as the figure previously stood at 27. It's the latest development of the government's initiative to close all asylum hotels during this Parliament and feeds into the broader ambition to tackle illegal immigration in Britain. Home Office Minister Alex Norris spoke to GB News' Home and Security editor, Mark White.
I've spoken to the representatives of the Crowborough community and had some very challenging conversations with them about that, to make sure that they have that, you know, our facilities have the lightest possible impact on their lives. We've put more investment into security, into policing, into health services, so that local services are less affected. That type of accommodation, what we call dispersed accommodation, has always been used for, you know, in this case, asylum accommodation. Lots and lots, huge amounts, and change communities, of course, exactly the way you'd say. That is wrong, but that is part of finding the solution, and what we would say of dispersing, you know, the challenge of supporting a population of people who would otherwise be destitute.
Donald Trump says Iran talks could resume over the next 2 days after the first round in Pakistan last weekend ended without a deal. Meanwhile, world leaders will gather in Paris this week to agree a plan to keep the Strait of Hormuz open to shipping after the conflict in the Middle East. Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron will co-host the summit, focusing on a coordinated multinational mission to protect one of the world's most important trade routes. Downing Street says the plan will combine military and diplomatic efforts to safeguard shipping once the war ends. It comes as the UK steps up its response to the crisis, with a new cabinet committee set up to deal with the wider impact on energy markets and national security. Meanwhile, the preliminary round of talks between Israel and Lebanon has now concluded in Washington. The Lebanese state news agency is reporting. Israel's ambassador to the US and his Lebanese counterpart were hosted at the talks today by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said the meeting represented an historic opportunity. But he warned that diplomats are working against decades of history and complexities. The negotiations lasted around 2.5 hours. Israel and terror group Hezbollah, that are based in Lebanon, have continued to launch strikes at each other during the 2-week ceasefire agreed by the US and Iran. Those are the latest headlines. For now, it's back to Patrick.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening. Axel Rudikabana's head teacher tried to raise the alarm that he was a dangerous psychopath, but was silenced because he was black. Head teacher Joanne Hodson told the public inquiry that from his first day at her school, she realised the teenager was very, very high risk, with a manner devoid of any remorse. But when she tried to raise the risk he posed to others, Miss Hodson said that she was accused by children's mental health workers of, quotes, racially stereotyping him as a black boy with a knife. The Southport killer had been expelled from his previous school. He brought a knife in and told teachers that he intended to use it. The head teacher also wrote a report about his sinister internet searches, but her wording was changed to say that the searches were just inappropriate. Let's just have a little look, shall we, at this monster's track record. Multiple incidents with a knife, attacking a child with a hockey stick, an obsession with poison, searching things including an Al-Qaeda training manual online, and a fetish for school shootings. But oh no, we can't racially stereotype him. How many people have to die because people are too afraid of being called racist to act? Let's take the example of Nottingham triple killer Valdo Calacane. He wasn't sectioned because mental health workers were worried about the amount of black men in mental health facilities. This was after he tried to break into a woman's flat and she had to jump off a balcony to get away from him. He went on to kill 3 people. The Manchester Arena bomber, Salman Abedi, wasn't stopped by a security guard as he approached the arena with a rucksack full of explosives because he didn't want to seem racist. The security guard said, "I felt unsure about what to do. It's very difficult to define a terrorist. For all I knew, he might well be an innocent Asian male. I did not want people to think I'm stereotyping him because of his race. I was scared of being wrong and being branded a racist if I got it wrong and would have got into trouble. It made me hesitant. I wanted to get it right, but not mess it up by overreacting or judging someone by their race." Yeah, well, loads of people died, I'm afraid. So maybe being called a racist wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. The Prevent Counter-Terror Scheme, just as a whole now, has been called Islamophobic by human rights groups because apparently it focuses too much on Muslims. So the problem isn't the sheer volume of Islamist jihadi extremists that we have. No, the problem is trying to catch them. The Pakistani rape gangs. Police forces said that they were too afraid of stoking racial tensions to prevent the industrial-scale rape and abuse of predominantly working-class white girls. This comes down, in my view, to critical race theory being taught in schools, a relentless focus on diversity and wokery right throughout the public sector. Sometimes stereotyping people might actually be in the public interest. It's a basic human instinct. Time and time and time again, people have died or suffered because authorities are too afraid of being called racist. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We've got GB News contributor Will Kingston, journalist Linda Jubilee, and GB News contributor as well, Kai Wilshaw. Will, I'll start with you. So here we have it. It's the latest evidence that, sadly, people have died in part because someone in authority was too afraid of being called a racist to act.
Yeah, Patrick, I just find this incredibly sad. The lessons from the rape gangs still are not being learnt. And you have to ask, why? And the short answer is that there is a small group of very, very powerful people in this country who treat multiculturalism like a religion and who prioritise it over the safety of British citizens. They believe that diversity is our strength. They have clung onto that belief for such a long period of time that they've built careers around it and they're not willing to let it go. And in order to not let it go, they've created a culture across the schools, the public sector, every single establishment in which they put pressure on people, they bully people, they silence people who dare to call that out. And as a result of that, people stay silent. And as a result of that, people die. So whilst I put the overwhelming blame on those sorts of politicians and leaders within the public service who have created that culture, there will need to be more courage from people who are actually working at the coalface to stand up and say, you know what, this is wrong and there are consequences for it being wrong.
Consequences, and those consequences, I think, should involve being named and shamed, Linda. Because
I agree.
The families of some of the South Court victims have said that if they're not named publicly, they will name them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And also this ties in with what I was saying earlier about accountability. I'm sure that if they realised there was going to be a consequence to their behaviour, like being named, they would be more on the money when it comes to keeping an eye on this kind of thing. Because the problem here was a total lack of accountability between the agencies involved. They were all operating in silos. They were box ticking, as I mentioned earlier, and then signing off on it without ever alerting anyone else in that chain, in that group of agencies. And in the end, we saw a very, very dangerous individual, which they knew about. He'd even threatened a family member, and that family member was not told not to come home that night because the father was worried for the life of that person. I mean, the people, I can't get over this. The people that I think really need to be held to account here are the parents. Yeah, 100%, yeah. That is, it was atrocious, particularly the father who hid things from the authorities as well.
Robert Dominguez today said that they should be deported back to Rwanda. I'm up for that. were granted asylum from Rwanda.
The father
in
covered up
2002.
things. The father covered up things from the agencies involved, and that was truly. And I think the judge outlined this in his summing up for the first part of the inquiry.
I don't think
it's outrageous.
I don't see how they can have any place in this country at all. And it comes to hiding a machete. On the morning of the attack, they found an empty knife wrapper in a washing machine.
He had rice
They knew
in
about
his
poison.
bedroom.
It's just absolutely catastrophic. But we did really focus on the parents last night, and this development today, Kai, what we're focusing on now is about this idea that the fear of being called racist or racially stereotyping someone has in part ultimately led to the sad loss of 3 little girls, and I think 22 other people were injured in this attack as well. Yeah. This just has to stop, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. I share your horror, and I think that is nonsense, this sort of wokery that I think in part has been imported from the States with good intentions, right, has now had second-order effects that I don't think anybody could have predicted, but, include things like this. I don't know how you get the genie back in the bottle, but the other thing that I would say that I think is more to blame and is more emphasised in the first part of this report is the systemic failures have systemic causes, right? I mean, you look at the complete underfunding or defunding of things like children's mental health and social care and so on. That means that 25% of kids who are referred to mental health services don't get seen, right? Things like this where Prevent, which was mentioned in the report as having, been as being particularly to blame, and he was referred 3 times, them not having the kind of funding that they need. It was 5 agencies that were named specifically, and Prevent was one of them, right?
So you have to ask. It wasn't a lack of resources that stopped one agency passing information to another agency.
I totally agree, but I think when you have an issue like this, where there's so many agencies involved that have each failed in their own different ways, even though individuals in those agencies may have had the best intentions, you have to ask what's going on here. Is it actually state failure and people being too thinly spread to know what the hell they're doing?
Are we now witnessing the natural culmination of what happens when you start relentlessly teaching things like critical race theories to kids in schools, and when big companies, especially in the public sector, hire people to come in and give talks about microaggressions and about race theory and about DEI and all of this stuff? This is ultimately where it leads.
Yes, and that, Kai, is why this is entirely predictable, what has happened, because this culture has been building for 30 years now at the very least. The road to hell, Kai, is paved with good intentions. The fact of the matter is we could see this coming because this is the culture that has infected the institutions. No amount of money, by the way, is going to fix that, because, for example, if you throw more money at child therapists, they're still not going to be sent to the child therapist because there's a fear that you'll be telling them, well, because they're black, therefore we can't actually say that they've got problems. It's the same fundamental problem.
You've got to actually change the culture in the workplace, and that's a very, very hard thing to do. That's like turning around an ocean-going liner. You have to bring in a culture where people are accountable. You absolutely have to bring in key performance targets. I know that's an overworked phrase, but people, if you're a journalist and the news editor sends you out a story, you don't say, oh, sorry, I couldn't get that. Do you? You know that, Patrick. You work in a climate, in a culture where you have to produce, and the same thing needs to exist where children's lives are concerned.
I think it's a very risky thing where you start to talk about the stereotyping thing, right? Because it's a very difficult topic to talk about.
Yeah, that was gutsy from you.
For the obvious reasons, right? But, for example, things like stop and search has been raised loads. But then if you look at some of the high crime areas, you look at some of the stats, I mean, black people are more likely to be victims of knife crime, also more likely to be the perpetrators of it. So then is it not dangerous to then kind of go around your daily life as a police officer thinking, well, I'm not going to stop and search this person because they're black, even though the stats might suggest that actually might be safer for the black community if you did do a little bit more, maybe a little bit more racial profiling. Look at the kind of Pakistani rape gangs in some of those areas. Look at who some of those perpetrators were. So, again, just the weight of evidence would have suggested that maybe you should have focused more on men of Pakistani heritage who happen to be taxi drivers and kebab shop owners in Rotherham and Rochdale. It's not racist to do that, is it? This is the thing. So, sometimes stereotyping is actually in the public good, isn't it?
Yes, but also the flip side of that, right? So, for instance, in the last few years, we've had a lot of focus on immigration and on, for instance, grooming gangs and so on. And we've seen a corresponding increase in the amount of crime against Muslims in the UK, most of whom are doing absolutely nothing wrong. They're being assaulted, they're being attacked because of the colour of their skin or because of the perception of their religion. Is that right? Because that's the flip side of us then shining a light on this. So it is a balance, right?
So you shouldn't.
It's a balance between. No, I'm not saying that. You know, I'm not saying that. But of course, you understand why people are still cautious about, not getting things wrong, essentially, when we're talking about issues of race and identity.
I don't mind saying this. So my granddad was Irish, from the Republic of Ireland, came over and had a very thick Irish accent, and there was obviously kind of, the IRA thing was happening, right? And my mum had got a gig. She was doing a thing at a particular show, and he'd come, and it was her first show, and he brought her a bunch of flowers. And security at this show realised that he was Irish, and they ripped every single flower out of the thing because they were worried, they said anyway, that he had a bomb in it, right? Now, I've never once heard any sour grapes from any of my Irish relatives about this because they would ultimately have rather that no one who was a member of the IRA had let a bomb off in a theatre, even if they were probably in some way at the time felt as though they'd been a bit discriminated against. And that, I feel, is lacking at the moment.
And I'd add, I reckon not many people would have had a problem with it at the time because he was white. Whereas if we're racially stereotyping people who are black, there it becomes a more loaded political issue. I'd just change the word stereotyping to statistical likelihood. And a good example of this is having certain countries which are red listed from immigration, like, say, Afghanistan or Pakistan, because it is statistically just so much more likely
but you know what?
they will sexual assault
I
women.
still say that you have to look at solutions here. We have to be ruthless when it comes to saving children. And you have to get into places like local authorities, like the various agencies, and you have to tackle the culture and the lack of accountability and the silo-based mentality that goes on in there that actually prevents any meaningful action happening. There's a lack of decision-making that happens in those environments, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, and that's a more practical, reasonable thing for us to discuss, rather than how can we change the culture of how we talk about race in the UK, doesn't it? How do you change that? That's almost impossible. Whereas what we need is to have a conversation about things like that.
You do that too. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right?
Well, you don't just say how and not do it. You find a way of doing it and then you implement it. There's far too much talk and not enough action.
Well, there's we're going to rattle on because there's lots going on tonight. We actually can reveal now, it's some breaking news for you, which is the King's full itinerary for when he goes over to the United States. They've been holding off on revealing the full itinerary of the state visit, but we have it now and we can tell you all about that. Also, we're going to be talking about the IMF's downgrading of Britain's economy and the fact that apparently they want to scrap £3.5 billion from our defence budget right at this specific moment in time, which is remarkable, isn't it? But before all of that, it's the Great British Giveaway, and you can get in this motorhome and you can drive wherever you like and you forget about all this doom and gloom.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this stylish home from home comes with all of the features you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Alloy wheels, solar panel and pop-top bunks for an optional sleeping area. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Marmalade, a British breakfast staple, could soon be getting a rebrand under a post-Brexit food deal with the EU.
Well, the new agreement lines Britain up to EU rules, which have changed since Brexit. This could force shops to rename marmalade citrus marmalade, as Britain aligns with those new European rules.
I think they might be taking the pith on this one. What do you reckon? Joining us now to discuss these changes is Jane Hassel-McCosh, marmalade maker and founder of the Dalmain World of Marmalade Awards. Wow, that sounds pretty impressive. What do you make of this, Jane?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's actually very good news. I think that why are they having to redefine it? Well, the answer is that marmalade is on the up. Our citrus marmalade is on the up. And so it now really does have to be defined. Whereas when I started this competition 21 years ago, we got 60 jars coming in, all good Seville orange marmalade. And today we have the most incredible assortment of entries. We get entries from artisan, small commercial producers. And that's where I think the problem will be, that all the artisan producers are going to have to remake their labels, which is expensive and difficult.
Expensive and pointless. I mean, to me, marmalade is very clear. It's a sort of orangey, jammy thing, and it is very nice. And if there's a sort of marmalade that's not made with oranges, that's made with another sort of either citrus or indeed non-citrus fruit, as the Europeans call their marmalades, which I don't really think counts as marmalade, yeah. But anyway, that's by the by. We're now saying that orange marmalade can't be just called marmalade.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there, with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome along. Tomorrow's newspaper front page is shortly, but before that, this is just absolutely mind-blowing. Reports say that senior officials are set to meet this week to find £3.5 billion worth of savings in the defence budget. But are the bean counters in government looking in the wrong place? So, benefits are being uprated, the two-child benefit cap lifted, and some estimates say that incapacity and disability benefits could reach £100 billion by 2030. Bear in mind that our entire standing army could fit into Old Trafford Football Stadium with several thousand seats to spare. It took HMS Dragon 3 weeks to reach the Eastern Mediterranean. It looks very much like this Labour government is choosing welfare over warfare. Joining us now is the former Conservative Foreign Secretary, Sir Malcolm Rifkin. Sir Malcolm, thank you very much for joining us. I absolutely cannot believe, in fact, I didn't think it was real, to be honest with you, when I saw this story earlier today, that in this current climate especially, the Treasury is looking at the Ministry of Defence and saying, find us £3.5 billion worth of cuts, please.
Well, it doesn't surprise me the Treasury are trying to find it. It would astonish me if the Cabinet as a whole, including the Prime Minister, gave them the slightest opportunity to succeed. Of course, it would be absurd in this current climate, and it would be pretty ridiculous anyway. But that's what the Treasury is there to do, to always push for savings, but that doesn't mean they always get their way.
Do you not think it's just kind of quite harebrained at the minute anyway, though? I mean, I get that it's what the Treasury's there to do, but right now, in this current climate, not just with what's actually going on all around the world, but also politically speaking as well, you know, the British public want more defence spending. Why would you even entertain this?
Well, the British public want several things. They want more defence spending, but they also quite enjoy welfare spending, at least those who receive it certainly do. And there is a real dilemma for the government. I don't for a moment hide that fact. But the whole point of having governments is they're there to lead, not just follow public opinion at any given moment in time. And at the moment, there is not the slightest doubt there is a very serious threat to the realm. The defence of the realm is the single most important task of government. They appointed George Robertson, the former Secretary-General of NATO, to report to them as to what was required. He and his colleagues produced an excellent report. It was accepted in principle at the time by the government, and now they're shilly-shallying. And the fundamental point that we all know is, how do they find the resources to meet the sums required? Well, the simple answer, if you are leading and not simply following, is you take difficult decisions. And there are only two other ways in which you can fund this. One is by reducing welfare spending, and the second is by increasing tax, either income tax or VAT, or a combination of these. But, anything you do will be uncomfortable and will be unpopular. But for crying out loud, we want a government that will lead and not just, and particularly when it's got a massive majority in Parliament, is it really unable to produce a majority of its own members of Parliament to support the policy of the Labour government that the public chose to elect?
But surely it's quite an easy sell to the wider British public, though, which is that actually we are now having to use a German warship to spearhead a NATO exercise, which is just humiliating all round, really. We've seen that HMS Dragon has taken however long it took to get to Cyprus and then immediately had to go in for maintenance again. And the world's on fire. So actually maybe we shouldn't be doing things like scrapping the two-child benefit cap for people who, frankly, have just arrived in this country so that they can have as many kids as they want.
Well, there's a whole range of possible ways in which you should be able to reduce the welfare budget. The government, we know, some months ago, a year or so ago, actually tried to do some of these. And because some of its own backbenchers objected, yet again we had a U-turn by the government climbing down. And we've had that on several issues. Now, what I'm saying is there's no point having a government, whether it's a Labour government or any other party, unless they are prepared to do sometimes things that are unpopular, but where the national interest requires it. And as you indicated earlier, as you indicated earlier, none of us know for certain what the public's view would be when given to choose between welfare spending and defence. It would depend whether they were used to receiving welfare spending, but that cannot be the criteria. There is a serious risk, not just to Britain. If the United States, under Trump, withdraws its support for NATO, then there's a crucial requirement for Britain and France and Germany and other European countries to spend a whack more in defence. And they will all have the same challenge. But Germany is at the moment proving a very good example of how, with proper leadership, you can massively increase defence spending when the national interest requires it.
But welfare spending is now so astronomically high that no one could accuse us of not being a fabulously generous country. I mean, you only have to look at the amount that we spend on asylum seekers, for example, is one point. I mean, as well, it's not directly welfare, it's our health budget. We pump more money into our NHS every single year than the entire GDP of Portugal.
I hear what you say, but...
But my overarching point there is, do people on welfare and benefits not realise that it'll be pointless having all this welfare and benefits if we get blown to pieces?
Well, I happen to agree with you on that, but that's not really the point I think we're here to discuss at the moment. There is a crucial parity at work here, because undoubtedly there's a massive problem with the defence budget. But how many people realise that even today, the United Kingdom has the 5th largest defence budget in the world? Only the United States, China, Russia and possibly India have a larger defence budget than we have. So why do we have this massive problem with getting the right size of the army and the right number of ships and so forth? It's really for two reasons. First of all, because of the need to fund Trident, which we have to have, our nuclear deterrent, particularly if the Americans were to withdraw their support. Well, that takes up about 15 to 20% of the defence budget. And it shouldn't be in the defence budget, because the defence budget is about day-to-day conventional conflicts that might break out. The Trident budget should be funded quite separately. The second point is, we insist for understandable reasons, but no longer convincing reasons, that we must always have the best frigates, the best tanks, the best aircraft that money can buy. And they're damned expensive. And what happens is when you order a new ship or a new tank or a new aircraft, halfway through the contract itself, the builders come to you and say, well, you wanted to have the best in class. I'm afraid the technology has increased and improved. That'll be another 2 or 3 billion, please. So we've got to ask ourselves, is it better to have half a dozen superb frigates or 2 dozen pretty good ones, but not necessarily of the first-class rate.
We did also put the wrong engines in some of our Type 45 destroyers, which I don't think has helped matters much, has it?
Well, every country has embarrassments with its defence budget, to be fair. There's lots of good criticisms. I'm not going to say because we're not perfect, or because the Ministry of Defence isn't perfect. I was Secretary of State for Defence for 3.5 years, and I know the real problems they face. But that's not an excuse at a time of national requirement for having a defence budget that meets the national requirements.
Just to be clear then, Malcolm, to put you on the spot a bit here, you would cut welfare to help fund the defence budget, would you?
Well,
Which
I would
bits
think
of it?
that has to be part of it.
Right.
But maybe the
which
time
bits?
has come. Maybe the time has come when we also just have to accept that another penny on income tax or an extra 1% on VAT may also be part of the way of dealing with this. If we want to protect welfare services, that is the only way you could do it. And I think the answer is somewhere in between. I think that time has come to have to recognise we have to have some tax increases of a significant kind, but that may also be combined with welfare reductions, where the arguments for it are no longer as strong as people claimed they were.
All right. So, Malcolm, always a pleasure. Thank you very, very much. So Malcolm Rifkin there, former Conservative Foreign Secretary and indeed Defence Secretary as well. I think people will be more inclined to accept a hike in their taxes if they looked around and thought that the money they were already spending was actually being well spent. But the MOD spokesperson has said to us the defence budget is rising to record levels as this government delivers the biggest boost to defence spending since the Cold War, totalling 270 billion quid this Parliament alone. Demands on defence are rising with growing Russian aggression, the crisis in the Middle East and increasing operational requirements. We're finalising our defence investment plan that we will publish as soon as possible, putting the best kit and technology into the hands of our forces, rebuilding British industry to make defence an engine for growth and doubling down on our own commitment to NATO. Look, coming up, the papers are coming in thick and fast. We have got the latest on the King's itinerary for when he goes stateside on that royal visit. And we're also going to be talking as well about, well, the kind of energy disaster that we're seeing at the moment. Ed Miliband's promising 400,000 new green jobs. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. And the IMF has, of course, downgraded Britain's growth. It's all gone Pete Tong. That's next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunny skies across most of Spain, some thundery showers on Wednesday in Italy, and after some sunshine, things turning showery in Greece. Things warming up in the Canaries through the rest of this week. Sunny spells on Wednesday, lots of sunshine for Spain and Portugal. Main exception will be the far northwest, where there will be some rain moving in. Heavy showers, even thunderstorms likely in Italy, particularly in Rome. Much of Greece dry and sunny on Wednesday, but the showers will move in here later on in the week, and a continued risk of thunderstorms in Rome.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through the next day or so, it will remain pretty cloudy but relatively mild, especially in any sunshine. It's going to be a very mild night tonight, particularly compared to nights we've had so far this week. That's because we've got southwesterly winds pulling up this milder air, but also a series of weather fronts. So that means outbreaks of rain will continue overnight tonight for much of the country. It's relatively light rain for most areas, but it could turn heavy across parts of Northern Ireland as well as Western Scotland in particular. The winds will start to pick up across western areas as well. But it is going to be a mild start to the day on Wednesday. Temperatures just 10 or 11 degrees to start the day. So very mild for the time of year. And as I said, very mild compared to recent mornings. We had a frost in these areas this morning. Now, 10 or 11 degrees to start the day, plenty of cloud, outbreaks of rain pushing up from the south and west. Still, the rain will be relatively light through the morning, but there is a spell of heavier rain on the way. Now, there will be some cloud and some sunnier spells at times across the far south and east, but I think for most of us, it's going to be a pretty cloudy day on Wednesday. Now, this band of rain pushes eastwards throughout the day. This brings a risk of some heavy spells of rain, some gusty winds for a time. So do take care if you're heading out around lunchtime. Shouldn't last all that long, but it does bring some nasty weather. Some brighter spells developing behind that. A risk of showers, though, across the south and west. But in any sunshine across the east, temperatures could climb to the high teens. Thursday brings another relatively mild day, a little bit more in the way of sunshine, but further showers, particularly across more northern areas. Across the south, there's just a small risk of the odd shower here and there. Stays unsettled through Friday as well, another windy day to come for some areas, but the weekend does look like it will turn a bit drier. Bye-bye.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christys tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Welcome back. Let me get you the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, starting this round with The Guardian. The Guardian-Iran conflict could spark recession, with Britain hit hardest in the G7, according to the IMF. We're going to talk about that. The iPaper, UK economy takes triple hit from Iran war. The Independent, Trump's Iran war puts world on the brink of recession. Can I just say, they are massaging Rachel Reeves here so much. The Mirror, Reeves fury at Trump, no exit plan, no idea. The Express, wake up, PM, and honour heroes hurt in the line of duty. The Daily Express there, it says a hero police officer stabbed in the line of duty is urging the PM to honour injured emergency workers. So let's have a look at what you've seen leading on the majority of those papers I just mentioned there. It's a huge headache for Rachel Reeves. It's a much bigger headache for you, actually, because Britain faces the biggest shock in the G7, according to the IMF. In what amounted to a triple whammy, the IMF not only predicted dire economic growth, but also warned of the highest inflation and predicted the smallest increases in living standards in the developed world. The fund said that the UK's slowdown will be sharper than its peers. Why? Because of the impact of higher energy prices, because we're importing so much energy. And so when you look at those countries on the screen now, keep that on the screen, please. That's the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, the US and Canada, all of which are affected by the same global Iran crisis. And yet it is us who are the worst hit. And so when you see front pages like the ones that I just showed you there, you know, like UK economy takes triple hit from the Iran war, why is it, Will, that we are doing so much worse than those countries?
Because we're a poor country that still thinks it's a rich country. We keep spending so much money, Patrick, on welfare, on net zero, on all these areas where we can't afford it, and it should be no surprise when we start to see these sorts of figures. But the other thing that I would add, remember those days when the government was saying we're going to go for growth, that growth was the priority of this government? We haven't heard that actually from them probably for about 12 months now, because it's not happening. And it's not happening because the way that you drive growth is either cutting taxes or reducing regulation. And they're the two things this government is absolutely unwilling to do. So it's no surprise that the IMF is saying that we're not going to grow because we're not creating the conditions for growth.
I mean, I also think there's something that people aren't mentioning here, which when it comes to the stagnation of living standards, and I'll just say it, I think when you relentlessly import people from the third world, you should expect your living standards to go down. Yep. And that is something that we are seeing, and we've been addicted to it for some ridiculous reason. And there you go. But, I mean, lower growth, fewer jobs, higher cost of living, that's on the front of the iPaper tomorrow, if we can bring that up. I mean, Linda, is this all about the Iran war?
It's a very, very big factor and it's a big exogenous shock in the way that the COVID was, for example. But I think Will's got a really good point there. We have to get used to our position as a middle-ranking power. We can't just keep looking back to the days of empire and thinking when the map was coloured pink. We have to see that actually there could be some strength in being a middle-ranking power, but we have to alter our economic strategy because of that. Now, we've got growth of 0.08%. That's no growth at all. And one of the problems I think we've got, and I would say this, of course, because of my political leanings, I think we've got a socialist government that absolutely does not understand business growth. There is no one in that front bench that has ever run a business, ever been involved in business, and does not understand how to get momentum going.
Yeah, look, if it wasn't the Iran war, we'd be seeing headlines like this. Starmer has already blamed this on Brexit. He's blamed it on Ukraine. Now this latest Iran thing is one. If it wasn't that, they'd find some kind of crisis that's taking place somewhere in Africa that affects us. They're not taking responsibility for their own actions. Before the Iran war, we already had 320,000 more people unemployed in this country under Labour.
Yeah. You can both believe that we are uniquely badly placed to lose out from the Iran war and think all the things you've just said about Labour specifically, right? But you can't discount the fact that it was that Iran is the reason that you're seeing those negative figures for all developed developed countries.
Worst for us.
And that's because we're uniquely badly placed, and that's not a function of the Labour government, right? I don't think that 18 or, fewer than 2 years of Labour government has put us in that uniquely bad position. However, where I totally agree with you is we need to get real. And more specifically, Labour MPs need to get real about a couple of obvious facts. Number one, they can't hold out on a more left-wing position on welfare. That's not going to happen. On welfare, we also need to have an honest conversation about the pension, right? Because you can't, on the one hand, say that welfare needs to be cut, but while also allowing people like Alan Sugar to be receiving the same state pension that everybody else has. That's obviously a nonsense and a Ponzi scheme, right? But then also, yes, growth, you're right. Labour MPs need to decide how quickly and how much they want to rush into growth and how are they going to achieve that. And clearly they've not done that so far because they've not gone fast enough. 1.5 million homes, it's not going to happen, right?
No,
why is that? That would have been a start.
So they're going to miss the £1.5 million new homes. Petrol, energy and mortgage costs are going to climb. We're also going to have to try to find, the Treasury wants £3.5 billion worth of savings for our defence budget. I mean, this is absolutely catastrophic. And, I do want to push back on something slightly. I fully understand what you're saying about, the idea that we're a middle-ranking power, but I don't want to be content with that. And I think that there are things in place where we can actually seriously look to establish ourselves once more. We shouldn't accept decline. No. We shouldn't accept decline, and we seem too ready to accept decline in this country.
This country, to be honest, in one way or another, has accepted managed decline since the end of the Second World War, and it's really, really sad, but it is a reality. The growth issue is case in point. Like, the growth problem is a 20-year problem now. There hasn't been per capita growth in about 20-odd years, and that is because the size of the state has increased and the spending has increased around it to accommodate
mass immigration.
And mass immigration, because we now know that mass immigration is a net economic negative.
But it's also the loss of manufacturing. It's the loss of some of our great skills. It's the fact that we do not create business environments well enough. That is a problem.
I'm not convinced it's any of those things.
It's obviously all
sorry,
things.
Manufacturing is no longer, in the 21st century, a high added value sector.
I don't think that's
For somewhere like the UK, it's not where we're going to dominate compared to all the other countries we're competing with.
I could just give one example. Say we talk about Martin Baker, that's the fantastic British family-run engineering company that produces most of the ejector seats for the world's air forces, right? It has grown and grown and grown and grown. That's manufacturing. There is no reason why that can't be replicated across the board. There's no will to do it.
Yeah, we should try and seek out those winning companies, but we're a service sector economy. We need to act like it. We need to face up to that. How can we improve?
Why do we have to be?
Well, because of the basic realities. What, 80% of the economy?
We can easily increase manufacturing, and we can start drilling at jackdaw. Those are two things we could start doing that would affect things immediately.
All right. Well, look, this will take your mind off it. I'm afraid it's bad news. Bad news for people who are afraid, like I am, of spiders. Now, it is the most common of phobias, apparently, but yes, we've got a clip for you here now of the... well, there you go. I'll show it you.
Might be our best defence.
Yeah, terrifying that, isn't it? Well, that apparently is the false widow spider, and it lives in Britain, and spider bites are putting more people in hospital in England than a decade ago, according to a Freedom of Information request. NHS figures show there were more than 100 hospital admissions in 2025 linked to spider bites, which has doubled since 2015. Apparently they're blaming an increase in the noble false widow spiders. Nothing noble about you, mate. The spider has been described as the most dangerous spider currently breeding in Britain. Well, there you go.
I moved to this country to get away from things that look like that.
Yeah, they've got the red. You've got red back traps.
He brought them
We've got to go, because I've got more front pages to show you, and we're going to reveal you the itinerary of the King's visit. So stay tuned.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
We brought you the story of a pub in Dorset who launched a desperate appeal to find its beloved stuffed toy badger, which was stolen from their boozer. Well, we're delighted to bring you some exclusive happy news. The badger has returned. I'm delighted now to be joined by the governor of the pub. That's the Oddfellow Arms in Wimborne, Callum Brooks. Callum, hallelujah, the badger is back.
He's back, yeah. Can you see him okay? He's sitting right here with me. Yeah, no, he's back. He's back safe and sound, well-nourished, and he's extremely happy. So delighted to have him back.
Callum, it's such a good story because you put the wanted poster out and we were on yesterday and you said, look, you don't want anyone to get into trouble. No, we all have a couple of bevies. We all do silly things. Return it. There'll be no problem. Tell us, how did it appear? What, just like on the doorstep? How did you get the badger back?
I got a phone call from the lady this morning, and I think it was exactly what we said yesterday. I think it's finally reached her. It was a few drinks too many that's resulted in a bit of a prank that's kind of escalated until the fact, you know, she's become notified, and ultimately she's done a very brave and admirable thing, which I have a lot of respect for. So Badger's been extremely well cared for, and the story's got the perfect ending, which we hoped.
And did she drive the badger around, or did she like use an intermediary to drop it off? Was it all a bit cloak and dagger? Tell us about it.
No, she drove him round. She had a cup of tea.
Beautiful.
Badger's turned back. He's got a lovely scarf on. She did intend to bring him back Saturday morning, but we was closed. I think then life got carried away for a couple of days, and before she knew it, it had blown up. She's made a donation to the Badger charity as well.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christys tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. The remainder of tomorrow's newspaper front pages now. The Times, Reeves dashes hopes of a boost to defence funding. It's not the only hopes she's dashed. The Mail, we cannot defend Britain with an ever-expanding welfare bill. The Telegraph, Labour set to lose control in Wales. The Sun, who wants to be a billionaire? Me. The Lottos, apparently there's a £1 billion mega jackpot on the card, so good luck, everyone. The Metro, Arch Chief thanks actor for bizarre insult. Cheers, Timmy. I'll get you more detail on that next hour. I haven't got time to delve into whatever nonsense that is now. Breaking news, though, here we go. Key details have been revealed about the King's upcoming state visit to the United States. It includes stopovers in Washington, D.C., New York and Virginia to mark America's 250th birthday. Happy birthday, America. The details include a private tea hosted by the President and the First Lady, time in New York to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. The King will address Congress in Washington, D.C., only the second monarch to address the chamber after his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. At the end of the state visit, the King is set to travel solo to Bermuda for a 3-day royal visit, his first as a king to an overseas British territory. The state visit, of course, comes at a critical time for the special relationship as President Trump has upped his criticisms of Keir Starmer recently. Right, so the King's going. We've got the long-awaited itinerary now, so he's seen off calls to cancel the state trip.
And I think what he has to do now is exert some of that famous soft power. There's no point in having it if you don't use it. And there's a lot he could actually do now to help put some ointment on those wounds with President Trump and Keir Starmer. So I think the visit has come at exactly the right time.
The itinerary looks good. Can I just add on a separate related point? How good it is that Trump will be the president for the 250th anniversary. If it was Biden or Kamala Harris, they would have been saying, well, it's a mixed history and we've got to, remember the evils of slavery and this and that. Trump, it'll be full-on ceremony and just the greatness of America. It'll be like one long NFL halftime show. It'll be great. Except without the wokeness.
Yeah. All the theatre, that'll be lovely, except for the fact that Donald Trump, and I'm not one of those people who has derangement syndrome, but you know what I'm going to say, he's done nothing more than any other US president to bring about the end of the Republic. Honestly to God, Donald Trump is the closest thing you have to that country going to the dogs. I swear to God. That's my honest view. And I think, the next general election, next presidential election, will be a total fix.
What evidence do you have for that?
Go on.
You don't have any evidence.
Donald Trump says in black and white.
Charles should be cancelling this.
No, I don't, because he's going, and yes, on the serious point, Linda, I totally agree with Linda. It's an opportunity here. Needs to use it.
Well, look, loads more on. We're going to be delving into tomorrow's newspaper front pages in much more detail for the next hour, and heck of a lot to go at, isn't there?
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through the next day or so, it will remain pretty cloudy but relatively mild, especially in any sunshine. It's going to be a very mild night tonight, particularly compared to nights we've had so far this week. That's because we've got southwesterly winds pulling up this milder air, but also a series of weather fronts. So that means outbreaks of rain will continue overnight tonight for much of the country. It's relatively light rain for most areas, but it could turn heavy across parts of Northern Ireland as well as Western Scotland in particular. The winds will start to pick up across western areas as well. But it is going to be a mild start to the day on Wednesday. Temperatures just 10 or 11 degrees to start the day. So very mild for the time of year. And as I said, very mild compared to recent mornings. We had a frost in these areas this morning. Now, 10 or 11 degrees to start the day, plenty of cloud, outbreaks of rain pushing up from the south and west. Still, the rain will be relatively light through the morning, but there is a spell of heavier rain on the way. Now, there will be some cloud and some sunnier spells at times across the far south and east, but I think for most of us, it's going to be a pretty cloudy day on Wednesday. Now, this band of rain pushes eastwards throughout the day. This brings a risk of some heavy spells of rain, some gusty winds for a time, so do take care.